if you feel like you're lost in it, like, are you truly lost? What do you need to do to find yourself? Do you need to take a break? Do you need to quit altogether? Maybe it's, maybe it's not you, maybe it's whatever you're doing. Like, maybe that's truly not where you are.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 52 of the What You Don't Hear podcast. So, if you're new around here, welcome to the show. Grab the most yellow thing near you, pull up a seat because we're about to get to know someone a whole lot better. So, what I do on the show is I sit down with the guests and I chat with them about their life story, covering a little bit of everything, including mainly what their journey of chasing their passions and goals has really looked like, covering all the ups, all the downs, and all the thoughts and feelings in between, digging into those sides of people's stories that we often don't get to hear. And I'll tell you about this week's episode in just a second, but first I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you in part by Promo West Productions, and I want to tell you about some upcoming shows in March that are going down at Kemba Live. That's right, Kemba Live via Promo West. They've got Rez coming through on Saturday, March 19th. Kesha is rolling in on March 22nd. Chelsea Cutler on March 30th. And Johnny Swim on Saturday, April 2nd. So to purchase tickets to any of those shows, visit axs.com, or of course, for more info, visit promowestlive.com. And just a quick note, folks, in case you're wondering, yes, it is currently February when you're listening to this, and all those shows that I just talked about are happening in March. But if you miss any of the February shows that I shared in previous episodes, you can either go back and listen to those, obviously, or you can hop over to promowestlive.com for all the info on any of those shows that you feel like you might have missed, or any upcoming events, or really anything that your podcast listening, music loving heart could desire. So don't miss any of the shows by jumping over to promowestlive.com, or I don't know, just don't miss an episode of What You Don't Hear. You know, I've been telling you about a lot of shows recently that could work too. But anyway, let's dive into this week's episode. So I sat down with trainer and former bull rider Adam Quick of Fit14. Now, I met Adam along with the rest of the crew at Fit14 last year while filming some projects for them. And Adam pretty quickly became a supporter of the show. As he was checking out episodes, and he would chat with me a lot via DM about, everything in the episodes and all this sort of stuff. And after hearing a bit of his background in bull riding and how that shaped, who he is and his vision on life and how he likes to help others and everything, during that video interview we shot months ago, when I was hearing all of that, I really wanted to know more, so we sat down, we made it happen here for this show. So let's not put it off any longer. Let's dive in. Here's my conversation with personal trainer and fitness coach, Adam Quick. So you love conversation, but you're like, I don't want to hear my voice.
I just want to talk.
See, I feel like I don't know. I feel like I got past that a while ago. Maybe I don't even know. I don't know. There was definitely a time where I was like, oh my God, is that how I really sound? Like, why would anyone ever talk to me? Like, I cannot believe that. And then because I did a podcast before this one, but it was way differently themed. But I think like having done that, like we did that for 3 years. And I think that definitely adjusted me to like, you know what? I'm just going to like have fun with it, and I'm just going to chat. And you know what? Hopefully somebody likes my voice. I have luckily been told that I have a podcaster or radio voice. So I hope that's...
Listen to yours. It's not... I don't...
This would be a good time for you to be like, you know what, man? I disagree.
I'm still listening, so obviously it's not that bad.
It's not too bad. Yeah, it'd be a great start to this episode if you were like, yeah, man, so that was one of the first things I wanted to go over with you was... I've been listening to your podcast, and you just don't have it, man.
Could you get a different host?
Yeah, could you? I still like the idea of the show, but if you could get somebody else to sit in for you, that'd be ideal. That'd be a great way to honestly start that. I should have scripted it out and been like, hey, yeah,
this is the first scripted one.
Right? Yeah, I'd be like, he wasn't sure about his voice. He definitely wasn't sure about mine. He didn't want either of us to talk, so we just scripted it. Yeah, dude, I'm so stoked we're making this happen.
Yeah.
And so. I mean, I told you a little bit before we started recording, like, I appreciate the fact you've started listening to this show and the fact that you cared enough about it that you were like, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
I will definitely come on there and I will chat even if I don't like my voice being recorded.
I mean, so who doesn't?
Right?
You got to face your fears, right? So here it is.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Breaking out of that comfort zone. Do it. And so this is your first podcast then?
Yeah. No, I've done one, but it never got produced. So still look for it. Never showed up. So
gotcha. Like you were a guest on one. You weren't.
Yeah. So it was like a movie review one. We just 3 people went, and it was actually hooked up with one of my training clients. So I went with one of my training clients. He had a friend that did it, and we went and watched this movie together, and we literally sat in the car after the movie and recorded the podcast. And,
Real? Okay.
and
I love that.
Last I saw, it's still not up. So
that's
been years ago.
what my old podcast was.
Oh yeah.
Was like a horror comedy podcast where a friend of mine and I would watch scary movies and then we would kind of retell them from our point of view and review them just like that. So a good old movie review podcast. Nothing wrong with that, honestly. If you want to review movies on this one, we can do that if that helps.
I mean, Halloween from 1978 would be the last one I watched. So.
That is, you're talking to the right guy for talking about scary movies. Because if that's the case, then we can make this whole episode about Halloween.
So that's how about this? I just started watching Saw the other day for the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I turned it off.
So are you a horror movie person or not?
I mean,
really?
I was growing up, but when I was growing up, it was Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween still. But
right.
I probably haven't. I still watch all those. But.
Yeah. Have you watched the remakes of any of those?
No, I don't think I have.
So I'll save you the time.
Okay.
The Nightmare on Elm Street remake, not really worth it. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's not really worth it. Friday the 13th remake, for sure not worth it. And the new Halloween movies are kind of right in the middle.
Right.
They're not awesome because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense in them, but they're still really fun.
Yeah,
so,
I did start from 2008, started that one.
Okay.
2018, excuse me.
Yeah. So there's 2 remakes.
Right.
Or I guess more than that. So there's Halloween for 2018. Then if you're familiar with Rob Zombie,
yeah, I've never seen it.
So his get a lot of hate.
Yeah,
I honestly like him because it's still it sticks with Halloween, it sticks with the story, but tells it in just enough of a unique way that I'm like, okay, no, I'm actually really into this because it's kind of strange and different and just tells the story in a more unique way. In my opinion, a lot of people hate it because it's just. I'm sure they want it to be exactly the same as which is the hard thing with the new Halloweens is because it's in the same universe as the original that you brought up. But I'm not going to give too much away. I'd say they're probably worth a watch. Yeah. I would say. So you said you tried to watch Saw. How was that?
Yeah, I didn't make it out of the first scene really of the first one. I'm just like,
that's fair. Were you just this is dumb, or are you just this is too much?
Well, I didn't really get to anything. There's a dead guy in the middle of the floor and 2 people chained to the walls.
Right.
There's just too much of 2 people talking.
That's fair. See, I think the first Saw is actually really good.
Yeah.
They do a really good job at actually telling the story. Then the second one's pretty cool, third one's all right, and then they ended up making literally 10 of them. And so that's why I was wondering which one did you just start randomly or just start at the beginning, or because all the other ones.
That's one thing I won't start in the middle because it doesn't make sense. So.
Exactly, yeah. Which some people do that. There's been some people that are like, oh, I watched Saw the other day and it's just a bunch of people getting cut up, and I'm like, well, yeah, that is what Saw turns into, but the first one is actually they wanted to actually tell a story and actually make sense out of it. But either way,
maybe
in lieu of
a shot.
Yeah, maybe fire it back up at some point. I think it'd be worth a shot. Unless you're I just don't like slow movies, then it's a little bit of a slow burn. But either way, folks, welcome to the Ross and Adam movie review podcast. Just like we said at the beginning. So we can actually dive in. And again, I just want to say thanks for being down to do this, man. I like we were talking about before we started recording. I feel like us aligning schedules, I'm actually surprised that it worked as quickly as it did, to be completely honest. So I'm stoked we're here. I'm stoked we're sitting down. Maybe we'll talk for 4 hours like a Joe Rogan podcast. Who knows? There is an awful lot that I want to uncover with you, though, because much like, at this point, past guests, Ryan and T, also from Fit 104, I got that day that we did all the interviews for your guys' story films and stuff, I got a glimpse at everyone in that gym and who they were and what makes them them and what makes them passionate about just training and life in general. And like I've told you, I want to eventually try and gradually get everybody on, right? To actually hear everybody's story, because each glimpse from everybody I heard, I was just like, man, this is, my podcast brain starts spinning and I'm like, we got to cut these short for, interviews for a film, but my podcast brain is going and I just want to hear more and more and more. One of the big things that obviously sticks out with you is you used to be a bull rider.
Yes.
So tell me, like, how did you get into that? Like, where does that start? Where did you do that? Is that all here in Ohio, or?
So no, I traveled the country doing that, all over. So there was sanctioning bodies basically, that had rodeos all over the country that we would travel to. I started in Central Ohio. I'm from Marion, which is about an hour north of here. And I started in Mount Gilead, 7 minutes away from where I grew up. But I didn't even start till I was 18, after I graduated high school, and almost a full year after I graduated high school. As far as getting started, I remember as a kid, my parents taking me to fairs, watching the rodeos. I always really got into the cowboy lifestyle. Loved Western movies growing up, and how can I from Central Ohio become a cowboy, right? Well, I could do a rodeo. I don't know nothing about it. I don't ride horses. And then that summer after I graduated, I got online. Internet's brand new, so I have to use dial-up, and searched all the fairs around and just started going to all the rodeos and just watching. Found out through some people that right down the street from where I grew up, in the wintertime, they put on bull riding twice a month, all winter long. And I'm literally 7 minutes from my house where I grew up, and I didn't know about it. So,
convenient.
Yeah. So then I started watching that, and just every other week, going there, watching. And I'm the more I watched, the more I wanted to try it. And so one time in April, when the series was about over, there was only 3 more left for the winter time. You didn't have to prove experience or anything. You just call in and say, hey, I want to jump on a bull this weekend. And
wait, really?
Yeah, really.
So you could just walk in.
Yeah. So if you're of age, or if you can get a parent signature,
really,
you could jump on a bull. So literally from November to April, I went to this every week and decided in April that I was gonna do it, and had to borrow equipment and had no idea what I was doing.
Not to interrupt your train of thought, but what's going through your mind? What's the first time like? Did you go out? Was there? Because this is going to be a terrible comparison, but the only thing that I can relate right now is when I was young, I was really interested in skateboarding. Mm-hmm. So I tried to get into skateboarding before I later got into skateboarding for real. What I mean by that is I was young. I was in my garage. My grandpa was like, all right, cool. I'll be out here while you learn how to skateboard. So I padded up, got all the pads, got on the board, rode, fell off, busted my ass. And he was like, so do you want to keep going? And at the time, I literally was like, I don't think so. And I didn't touch it and didn't want to do it again until I was a teenager, and it was the cool thing to get into. So that's the only thing in my mind. I just got on a skateboard and fell in my garage and was like, that's enough for me. I can't imagine walking in to ride a bull for the first time. And does any of that happen? Do you go in and you get, bucked off, and then you're like, oh, what am I doing?
Complete opposite.
Okay.
So, again, I had to borrow equipment. I watched it, but I didn't know anything, like pulling a rope and things like that. People up, hey, you got somebody pull your rope? No, I'll pull your rope for you, right? And that was one of the coolest things about rodeo. You're competing against everyone, but you're also helping everybody. So, but anyways, so yeah, jumped on. got on this really good bull at the time, but I didn't know. He hadn't been ridden in I don't know, 300 tries or whatever. So came out, literally started to fall off the side right away. I think when I asked the judge, it was 1.3 seconds. You have to stay on for 8 to get a score. Fell off right by the fence. The bull stayed right on top of me. Ripped my pants off of me. So my first lesson in bull riding was to bring extra clothes. Like not something I thought of when I.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, good thing I only live 7 minutes away.
Right.
So, and fell in love with it.
Really? So getting thrown off, you were like, "This is dope. I need more."
So then 2 weeks later, I was there again. A little better prepared. At least I had talked to some people. Don't have a clue about that one. I don't remember that one at all. But then 2 weeks after that, I was there again. So I remember there was this bull there that was just notorious for being really mean, right? I remember he had one horn that kind of pointed up and one horn that kind of pointed straight ahead. He would turn his head around as you're on him, whip his head around like he's trying to hit you with his horns. And anyways, so for that rodeo, you had to call in on Wednesday or Monday, I don't remember, to sign up. So you sign up ahead of time. And all that week, I already called in. All that week, I just kept having this dream that I got on this mean bull. And whatever, it's just a dream. And then show up, pay my money. And the way they do some places, the way they did the draw back then to pick your bull is, here's the list. You have these poker chips with the bull's names on it. Pull it out of the hat. The first guy gets that bull, second guy, whatever. So, I mean, that's the luck of the draw, right? So the judges and the secretary of the rodeo do the draw, and then they post it so you can go check your bull. And right beside my name was WM, and I'm like, I remember right then just the biggest deep breath, this is actually happening. Sigh almost, everything I've dreamed about this week is happening today.
Because it was the bull.
It was the bull. And the bull's name was Widowmaker. I mean, because he was so mean. But it was just, and I got on him. My sister was there for the first time. I think my mom might have been there for the first time too. I don't know if she came the week prior. But anyways, like I said, he was notorious for trying to get you with his head while you're on top of him. And I made it a few jumps out and started coming off the side, and he did his head thing, and he caught me behind my ear. And basically, I was falling off the left, he flipped me over to the right of him and threw me off, and then run into the fence, trying to climb the fence. I can't find it with my feet because he just kind of dazed me. And I remember going back behind the chutes, just falling down on the ground basically. And I remember my mom and my sister just coming back there, and my sister's just bawling. My sister doesn't cry for anything, right? At least she didn't then. And I just remember telling my buddies that I was with just to keep them away from me. So.
And I mean, were you? What was your state of mind at that point? Were you like, "Damn it, that sucked," or were you like, "This is still dope," or were you hurt? Were you super dazed?
I was just super dazed.
Okay.
Like I said, he hit me. He literally hit me with his horn and flipped me from one side of him to the other. I had the biggest mark behind my ear, and I'm just I think between the whole week kind of freaking out about the dream, the seeing it on paper. So that moment, getting back behind there, okay, I'm alive, I'm okay. But that was probably the first time of the 3 rides. I'm do I want to do this? And that's also when, after that rodeo, a couple of the older guys or people who've been doing it a while saw me finally, and they're like, "Hey, we've seen you show up the last 3 times. Like, are you going to continue this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." And they're like, "All right, why don't you come to our house? We'll teach you some things."
Okay, so then you had people kind of officially
Yeah.
take you under
Yep.
their wing. That was what I was about to ask you, was like, I feel like in something like that, and realistically even anything, I'm sure you experience this at the gym now, when you see somebody come in the first or second time and attempt something, and you see kind of them maybe be uncomfortable or they learn something, it's probably in the back of your mind of like, all right, how many more times are they going to show up? And then after a certain amount of time, you can kind of identify like, oh, they really do want this.
Right.
So that's what I was going to ask you. I was like, did that happen at some point with
absolutely. And like I said, after the third one, the very next week, I was over at their house, and again, not really knowing what to expect. So, and they helped me with all the basic stuff, and it was just a good time. Like, they taught me a lot of things, but then it was more like just hanging out too, like with people I didn't really know, but after a while got to know real well.
So you had that big thing in common with them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
so what were you doing outside of bull riding at that time? Like, were you already training people? Was it just like normal job?
No. So training came way after that.
Okay.
So I just did a normal job. I actually worked at a farm. So it was a bull farm. It's in Plain City. So we won't get into the details of that, but so anyways, I was working there. Actually, the reason I got that job was because I told my uncle, like, someday I'm going to ride bulls. And he's like, whatever. No, really. He's like, all right, if you want to ride bulls, why don't you come down and work where I work?
It's like, there's a bull
I'm
farm.
Like, okay. So it has nothing to do with riding bulls. But,
right. But they were there and around.
But, I mean, I would say that probably helped me because I was around those animals, those large animals all the time. So it probably definitely helped me get used to, or push me towards wanting.
And so I know you said you liked Westerns and you just liked the idea of like the cowboy lifestyle. Like, did you grow up in the country? Like, did you grow up in farm and stuff like that?
So like my family wasn't farmers, but we grew up in, like rural Ohio, right? Like cornfields and everything around. So like all my friends, I went to a rural school. All my friends were farmers, I spent my life at the fair with all my friends. I didn't show anything, but that was just, that country lifestyle is basically what I lived.
Okay, so it was just something that kind of just, you were around, like you weren't in it, you weren't like on a farm every morning,
Right.
waking up, doing the thing, like whatever, but you were around it enough that you were like, oh, that's a lifestyle that I feel like I want.
Right. Yeah. Like that was literally it. Like I wanted that lifestyle, but I wasn't born into it. Like it's not handed down to me. So like, how can I get it in some way, shape, or form? Like,
what was it that attracted you to it? Like, obviously, I think when everybody's younger, like cowboys are cool, like the West is cool and all that sort of stuff. But even more particular, like farming lifestyle or just cowboy lifestyle in general. Like, what was it that you were like? Was it just like, hey, they ride bulls and that's dope? And there's,
there was part of that, I guess, a little bit of like, cowboys are cool. It's the old West. Like, obviously it wasn't, but like, I just kind of grew up that way. Like, we had, it was a rural school, it was all country. But we had people that listened to all kinds of music, and, I just kind of stayed on that countryside. I don't have a like reason. It was just the way I was, I suppose.
Yeah.
To live on a ranch and do ranching things and just kind of be out in nature, and like that was always a big dream. Like, and so to me, with it not being in the family, I had to seek it out a different way. So
yeah, which I feel like shows me that anybody doing anything, that shows me that you actually want it more when you have to go seek it out.
Right.
It's not just like, oh, hey, I'm around it, I'll like ask so and so if I can go hang out at their farm or whatever. It's like you were actively seeking it. So was that like your interest? And I know you said earlier kind of the age that you started bull riding and all that sort of stuff, but like even like through high school and everything, was that did it just like become the goal to kind of chase? Or was there ever something like when you're going through high school and you're graduating or whatever, are you like, I kind of want to go pursue this, or I'm going to go to college for this, but man, if I could find that cowboy lifestyle, like that's what I want to do? Or was it just like, nope, it's the goal. Those are all the decisions that I'm making.
So like high school, all throughout school, I played sports, baseball, basketball, football. So like athletics in general, competition, all the time. So like, not for sports, for me, a lot of things in my life don't happen. It's what got me through school. But no, it wasn't like, again, I didn't even have an idea that they had it near me. I honestly thought when I went to the fair, I was watching people come in from Texas and Wyoming.
Right.
I didn't know they were right down the road in Columbus or wherever they were from. So I didn't know who I was watching.
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't the goal. But for some odd reason, I guess when I graduated high school, like I absolutely made an effort to go watch as much as I could rodeo. I couldn't tell you why exactly, except for the fact that I loved seeing it, watching it all the time. I remember, so my parents split up when I was in high school, and I remember going to my dad's one time, and it was like, gosh, it had to be like late in my senior year of high school. And there's this pizza place. And I was watching bull riding at my dad's. It was on whatever channel back then. Anyways, I was watching it. And I'd ordered this pizza. And so I went to get this pizza right down the road. And when I got there, they were watching bull riding, the same exact thing I was watching. And I watched this ride. And it's one of the greatest rides ever recorded. And I remember I'm standing in Danny's Pizza just watching this one bull ride that I think probably really got my like interest. This one single ride, literally at the time, was the highest scored ride ever. I don't know. So that's when I started looking up rodeos around the area and things like that. So
yeah. So quick deviation, just because I lived a very similar life. In high school, going through a parental like divorce, did that was it were you old enough at that point in time where you were like, oh, I understand it. I get it. It's not like adding a drastic change to my life. Or was it like, did that become a thing where like in formative years of high school, while you're also trying to figure out yourself in your life, you're also like, oh, now my life is changing? Because my parents were split forever.
Right.
So I grew up and all I knew was like, I have two families. And
right.
They're super divided and I'm just in the middle of it. Like,
right.
So what was it like going through high school and having parents split?
So, yeah. It happened my freshman year of high school. So I can't say it was a bad experience. My mom and dad are really good friends. They were horrible husband and wife. So growing up, I mean, love them both to death. But like, again, best of friends. To this day, they're good friends. Yeah, I can't say that I was horribly upset that they got divorced. So, because them apart and still having them is better than them being together.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, there's nothing. It was just, they just didn't get along, right? And so, like, being able to go to my dad's and being able to be at home with mom, I mean, was perfectly fine by me. I mean, for me and dad, like you have your Austin 316 shirt on, like Monday night was our night. Like,
I love that.
So literally, I remember the house he lived in had a front room and kind of a center room. There was a TV in both, and I sat on a swivel chair and watched both Monday Nitro and Raw, like back and forth. So Monday night, like, I mean, me and Dad were hanging out watching wrestling, and
That's awesome.
and I still had all my sports, so I was super busy. I worked through high school, so like, but yeah, pretty much Monday night. I mean, Monday night was set. The rest of it was dedicated to basketball or football. So.
Right. And so yeah, in an odd way, it not an odd way, but in a different way, maybe than what I think maybe even I would expect. Like, it was actually almost a stress reliever, in a small way.
Yeah. I mean,
to where
there was definitely. I mean, I could probably think of some things that happened for me. Probably wouldn't have happened had they split up, or had they not split up. But would I say they were like truly detrimental? Probably not.
Right.
Like, I mean,
Well, and that's I definitely feel similar in the way of like, so my parents were split my entire life, so I always had the double family dynamic. But for so long growing up, I had a former stepmom who was not fit to be a parent. So I kind of actually got the positive benefit of people splitting once her and my dad split. And I got very similar experience where it's like, you kind of you start seeing like, oh, now I just kind of get more time with this parent.
Right.
And we kind of just get to do some like fun things. Like, I remember like when, I was younger when they split, and like the moment that she was gone, I started experiencing like all these different things with my dad where I was like, whoa, we're getting to, because he's not tied up in whatever they were, as adults, having to take care of and all that sort of stuff. And like, I remember like one of the most fun things as a kid, like right after they split up, my dad, he got like an outdoor wood burner, and we would like split wood together.
Oh yeah.
And I remember that I was like, well, this is so sick. Like, we're just sitting where you're splitting wood, like, or we would eat dinner together.
Right.
And not that we didn't before, but, and maybe you can relate to this, but like they're even whether it's hugely bad or just sort of weird or whatever, even if you're eating dinner together before, there's maybe that like weird kind of black cloud in the room that you're like, I know this is like, I know something awkward just sort of happened, or I know you were arguing a little bit ago, or I'm waiting for something to be brought up almost. Where at that point, once she was kind of out of the picture, I was like, oh wow, I'm getting to like experience things differently with my dad, and we would watch stuff together, or we would eat dinner together with my little sister, and like, so I kind of get what you're saying in the like, hey, like even though it's weird, and sure, there's not all 100% positive or 100% negative that can come from that. But you get those interesting experiences where you kind of get different perspectives from it. And so just like you, getting to sit and be like, hey, Monday nights are Dad and I's night, and we sit and watch wrestling, which I also love because I was too young to like not consciously like I was that young, but like I wasn't making the decision to like turn wrestling on. I got introduced to it via my stepdad. And I vaguely remember stuff from both Nitro and Raw, and like, but it wasn't like that all ended once I was like old enough to. I did. I missed the actual whole Monday Night War thing, because I started watching on my own in like 2002, so it literally was like right after it ended, is when I kind of jumped in. But I love hearing that you got to actually. I always love when someone recognizes that I'm wearing a wrestling shirt, so that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Somebody doesn't recognize that one.
Well, yeah, that's also true. Yeah, probably one of the most popular shirts to ever exist in the entire world. So after high school, do you just kind of jump into like the work field basically, and then you're like, okay, I'm still trying to figure out where I want to get into this bull riding thing, or was there some sort of balance that you had to try and figure out with that? Or
like the bull riding thing, I honestly never expected to take off, right? So I did start college. I started working at that farm, I don't know, like August, right? In September, I started school at a branch of Ohio State Marion, right? So I'm going there for like, I think even back then we did like quarters or semesters, I don't remember. So it was like, I went there for a while, right? And then bull riding started. School wasn't going that great. I remember not really liking it. I never liked school anyways. It's just a bad student, like I said earlier. If it weren't for sports, I wouldn't have got through school. So I did my best in college, but bull riding came along, and then so I stayed on. So I told you about my first 3. After going with those guys, I went with them to another rodeo to a different place, and there they allowed you to ride in the actual event, but then they had practice riding afterwards. So I did both, and so on that practice ride, I actually stayed on for the first time. So the full 8 seconds, right? So that was my fifth ride, and then the very next one at a rodeo, I stayed on again and won money, and that was a big game changer when they paid me to do that.
Yeah.
So because I had already been paying them, right? I give them my money. You got to pay an entry fee, and obviously you know where that goes, but you have to try to like earn it. So and then like my 6th one, they gave me a couple $100 to, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. Like, they're going to pay me to do it, which they don't just pay you. Like, you have to earn it.
Right. That's what I was going to ask, is like what the process is of like, because I mean, I remember like, when I was younger, watching bull riding and seeing it on TV or going to the local like events and all that sort of stuff. Like, but I'm totally unfamiliar with how that, like how you climb the rankings or when you start making money or.
Yeah. So it's a judged sport. So you get 8 seconds. You have to stay on for 8 seconds or you don't get a score. And then once you stay on 8 seconds, there's judges that score you like any other sport, gymnastics or whatever. And then, it's highest score wins, and depending on where you're at, depends on how many places they pay. So 4, 5, 6 places usually. And so, your score determines where you get placed there. So, and then, there's some people like, some of the sanctioning bodies that I used, like they kept track of all that. So you have like your year of riding, and they have like a finals at the end of the year where they invite the top 30 or whatever.
Right. Okay.
So, and some of them track different ways: total points, total money won. So like, either way, it's kind of like the top guys are going to be there. So you're either going to have the most points because that's what you scored. You're going to have the most money because you scored the most points and won the money. So like,
right.
So yeah, and then you just kind of work your way up, just traveling around. And
so, what did it do anything for you? Like the first time you made money, were you like, wait a second, okay? Like first I was really passionate about this, but now I'm seeing how. Like, did you start to see it as a different goal of like, oh, maybe I can not do this job so I can do this, or was it still just like, I'm getting paid for my passion, so great? So
like in the beginning. Like, for the first few years, it was still very passionate. Like, I'm just doing it because I love it. But in those first few years, I started getting a lot better, earning a lot more money. So, like, although I was doing it for the passion of it, getting that money changed how I did things. So then I had to be a little... So when I would think about doing other things, all right, well, I gotta go win this rodeo to do it.
Okay, I see.
So like, that actually became a big problem.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't ride as well. Because I was too hard on myself all the time if I didn't do well. So one thing about bull riding, you try really hard, but like you can also like put yourself in bad position by doing too much. So like when you're on a bull, like if you try to overcorrect, well, then you're off or things like that. So I did a lot of that. So like, so it went really well for quite a few years. And there would be times where it was bad, and then back to good. But like, if I always stepped back and just focused on riding it because I like to ride it and didn't worry about making money, I usually did well. not necessarily stay on all the time, but like you could tell that I did try, that I wasn't like,
Like phoning it in,
yeah,
sort of.
yeah. So like, and after when I come off, I'm not like, throwing a big crybaby fit behind the chutes because I just sucked or anything like that. So like, it is what it is. I did what I could. It didn't work out this time.
So that was kind of like a mental battle that you started going through at some point, because was it that you were kind of getting caught up in, like you were saying, like, okay, in order for me, if I want to do this, then I could make some extra money from this upcoming competition or whatever. So then your focus going into that ride is almost strictly on, I need to do well because I want the money,
Right.
not I want to do well because I am ready to do well, or I am prepared to do well.
Yeah. So it was just like, I have to do well instead of I want to do well.
Yeah.
It's like I have to do well. So like, it was just, when I just wanted it, it was really good. When I had to do it, it was really bad.
Do you feel like you identified that pretty quickly after, like, was it a couple times of like kind of messing up or getting angry at yourself where you were like, wait a second, my mentality about this is off? Or did it take a while?
Sometimes, so it went back and forth. So like I'd be in it where I'd be like, I have to get this done. Mm-hmm. Then there'd be times where like, I just want to ride bulls, right? Like, so it went back and forth. Sometimes it was longer than others, right? Like, there was probably a good 2-year period at one point where like, it was like, I have to do this. And it was just like, it was just a snowball. Every time just got worse and worse. Like, cause well, I sucked last time. I got to do better this time. Well, this time I sucked even worse than last time. And so like that 2-year period was like really bad. Cause like I said, just snowball. Like I just couldn't get out of it. And I think that's about the time, as far as injuries, I tore my labrum in my shoulder. So it put me out a while, which was, I don't suggest anybody ever tear their labrum. It's the worst pain I've ever had. But it was good for me at the moment because it forced me to go away from it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Is like, did the forced break make you kind of refocus
right.
on?
Because like, obviously with the torn labrum, I could still do my other job, so I was still getting money, right? So the bull riding aspect became a want again. Like, I just need to do it. Like, it's like a drug addict. Like, so like sit around and do it or not do it a while. Like, it was what I wanted to do.
Do you think that feeds into like I don't know, like too much of a good thing idea or something, where if you keep, doing the thing that you want and that's like it, you almost become numb to why you wanted to do it in the first place?
Yeah. That's anything. Like, you do too much of it, like you're going to get used to it. It's going to be like, you don't focus on the real reason. So like, why did you start it in the first place? If that's not why you're still doing it, then why are you doing it? Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, like if you, definitely riding bulls for me, it was that, like, I was just, again, it's what I did. But I let it become who I am. So I couldn't fail. So like, going to the rodeos and having the same people that show up to watch me every week and failing was bad for me because I identified as it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that feeds into, because I feel like I've noticed this a lot in just the world of, most of the people I talk to are in like the business and creative world, right? I feel like I've noticed that it's just as easy to, and I know this goes with anything, but I feel like it's just as easy to almost, when you're trying to, I'll just put it this way, when you're trying to like maybe avoid the machine, quote unquote, of like a normal 9 to 5, right? So you do everything you can to like, no, I want to work on my passions or my goals. I want to do what I want to do. And so then I can just be free. I can do whatever I want. I think it's almost just as easy to then create your own machine in that and get caught up in your own cycle. Where you're so focused on, I have to be perfect at this, or I always have to be, getting better. But even though that's a great thing, progress is a great thing, but you can almost get stuck on the perfection of, am I perfect yet? Right. Because I've definitely been there with my work, where like I've hit that point where it's just like, I kind of got hit with the reality of like, wait, I think I'm just in my own cycle. Right. And it's not that it's not exciting, or it's not that there's nothing I enjoy about it. Like there still, was at the time that I was thinking this, but it definitely took that kind of like refocusing moment. Like, do you feel like a lot of people do that? Like kind of get caught up in their own.
Yeah. Like get in their own way. Like, so yeah, I feel like people do that all the time. It's just, especially like you said, the independence, right? They're not working for, but even people who are stuck in the 9 to 5, like I've been there. I've done lots of them. I don't think I could ever go back to it. I hope I never have to. But I mean, when you start something, you have a vision of it, right? Like, if you don't change that vision, or you don't change as like things, veer off your path, like, yeah, it's going to be a problem for you. Like, you can't stay on the same path if that path isn't taking you where you need to go. Like, you may think it's there, but it's probably, you might want to change where you're going.
Do you feel like that's people like learning that their vision, their dreams, their goals have to shape and mold and grow with them, rather than like, here it is in its perfect glory at the end of the tunnel, and I am just supposed to just go to it. Yeah. When realistically, it might change because you're going to learn this here or learn that there. It's like I'm sure you've seen the photo of like people saying like what people think success looks like, and it's a straight line right to the goal. Yeah. What it really looks like, and it's a squiggly line that goes everywhere. Right. Like, do you feel like that's some of what the identifier is?
I mean, it has to be, because like if it was really a straight line, like, who wouldn't reach your goals, right? Like, and that, you're going to learn something along the way that might change your goal. Like, oh, I didn't know this. So, like, now that totally changes what it was. So, like, you're on your path this way. On that path, you learn something. And you're like, oh, well, maybe I don't want that to be what I'm seeking. Maybe you do it over here. And then while you're seeking this over here, you learn something new. And so, like, I don't know how you could really think that it's a straight line to your goal. Like, I would say you probably have to have a little better idea on what your goal might want to be.
Right. So. And that was so much of like when we were doing your interview for the story film, like, again, I heard it from everybody, but specifically with you, like that, I feel like you were so, like, everything you explained had to do with like discipline and mindset and the mentality into something. So like I'm seeing kind of like where that's coming from, and I feel like that's even on your social media. Like I feel like you share a lot of that stuff, which that's something I wanted to tell you is like I enjoy your social media.
Thanks.
Like I know everyone's like, oh, I need to get better at it. I need to blah blah blah. But like to me, it's always quality, not quantity. Yeah. So it's like I'm never the person who's like, you have to be posting 17 times a week. Like I don't care. Like whatever. Right. But I just feel like anytime I've looked through your stuff or whatever, like, I don't know, I feel like you're sharing like positive or encouraging things or thought-provoking things or whatever it is. And again, that was like one of the things, like when we were interviewing you for the film, I was like, okay, like, dude has a really cool outlook on like. Yeah.
I guess like social media wise, like, I mean, it's dumb and stuff to me. Like everybody's like, oh, he just steals all these quotes online. And I'm like, I try not to use any, like, I have an idea always, social media wise, and I'm like, I want to find something that fits it. and obviously I'm in personal training, which generally has a athletic background. So most people that come into the gym, very few of them don't relate to sports in some way, right? So I wish more people that didn't relate to sports came in, but so I get a lot of like athletic quotes and stuff like that. But like they all truly do mean something to me. I don't just like grab them. So yes, I do research a lot of quotes, but I also research the people behind them. So like if I've never heard of the person, it's a good quote. Like I got to find out, because like I won't use a quote from somebody that I find I have lots of different values than. Like,
yeah.
Because like that would just be like, oh, that's a great line, and it could probably help somebody out. It doesn't match my values. So,
right. Maybe
like,
the context is completely off from what I.
Yeah. So what'd they pull that from? Oh, yeah, this probably not the best guy for me to like try to represent or something. Like,
right.
So, I mean, I look at a lot of the things in my life, and even the people that are in my life probably don't pay that much attention to it. But I would say that just about every time I post something, I'm trying to talk to somebody specific.
Yeah.
So when we did our stuff for the gym, I mean, told you about my grandfather, who was a pastor. And I don't know what your relationship is with religion, or anything like that, but I don't know how many times me, myself, or other people like going to church, and maybe not even just my grandpa, but like, it could be the most random sermon or whatever, make absolutely no sense to 99 out of 100 people in there, but like that one person, like it's going to make sense to, and they're like, oh my gosh, like he's speaking to me. And so, I mean, it may seem random and like I'm just pulling stuff off the internet, but I'm doing it for a purpose, and there's almost always somebody in mind when I post that. And that's me passive aggressively saying, hey, hopefully the person I want to see it sees it.
Right.
So.
But that's even why I bring that stuff up, is because like obviously, yes, in like your story arc, we're talking about, okay, you're having this time to kind of refocus, you're regrouping, you're finding out, you're learning some lessons. And now, the Adam that I've met is this person who will sit in an interview and be like, yes, mental health is important, and your mentality and discipline about things are important, but you had to learn that from somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
But I bring up the social media thing because like, I love when people put purpose to their social media. Anybody can use it however they want. It doesn't matter. You can post food pictures or you can post inspirational quotes. Like, I don't care. But I try to use my social in the same way, where it's like, yes, I'm sharing cool work because I want someone to be like, that guy makes cool stuff.
Right.
But over the years of trying so hard just to be the trendy, creative Instagram person, I realized, whenever I do things that are really authentic to what I feel in hopes to connect with other people who might authentically feel like that, I enjoy social media a lot more.
Right.
Because there's a whole other podcast we could do about how annoying and terrible social media is.
Huh.
But I think at the same time, we really do get to control a lot of that.
Right.
You control what you post on social media, and realistically, even a lot of what you see.
Right.
There's unfollow buttons and mute buttons everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, there really is.
Yeah.
And that's again why I enjoy, whether you use it a bunch or not, that's why I enjoy what I've seen on your social, because it does feel like that you're sharing the stuff with purpose. Because like, it would be different, and there still wouldn't be anything wrong with it, but it would be different if you were trying to be a fitness influencer.
Right.
And then it would just be, all right, you're sharing this quote from Monday Motivation, that just says, go out and get it. And then you're like, by the way, use my 20% off code for blah, blah, blah. And it's like, again, nothing wrong with that. If you started doing that tomorrow, I'd be super supportive of it. I'd be like, hell yeah, dude.
I've done it.
Okay.
So and not that I have an issue with that, but people want to use my coupon codes. I mean, it's not a secret. I represent some people.
Right.
So reach out, but I don't get anything from it anyways. So like,
When you
I'd rather, you know, I'm not a big money person. It doesn't matter to me. So use it to reach somebody that really needs it.
Exactly. And that's what it sounds like you kind of determined. Again, there's nothing wrong with tossing out discount codes or,
Right.
or being that influencer person. Anybody who's doing that, awesome. Like, I love that it's working for them. But you kind of found like, okay, that stuff can happen, but I'd rather just focus on being authentic. Like,
Right.
that's why, like, I have conversations often with people who are like, dude, you write journal entries that are 19 paragraphs long on Instagram all the time. And I'm like, like, yeah, it's silly, whatever. But like, that's how I would like to use my social media.
Right.
I want to share cool creative things. I want to share work and portfolio and all that sort of stuff. But I also want to share my thoughts and my feelings. And for the same reasons that you explained at the beginning of this. If there's one person, 99 people could be like, there's Ross in a long caption again. My God.
Right.
But if one person DMs me and is like, hey, I really like that you shared this. I've been feeling the same way, or hearing somebody say this in this way really made me think about that. Like, whatever it is that made a connection, that made a clarity point for somebody, like, that's why.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's not about trying to get like 10,000 likes on that post or whatever. It's just like, cool, if one person reached out and was like, hey, I appreciate this, or hey, I think this way too, or comments, or whatever. It's like, cool, there's a connection that's made. It's not about like, how cool can my inspirational quote look
Right.
in my caption, and hopefully someone is like, he talks about chasing your dreams, I want to hire
Right.
him. It's like, maybe that can attract them, but what you probably really want people to get through the door with is maybe that quote attracts them. So then maybe they reach out to you and then can actually talk to you on a personal level of like, saw you share this, maybe what does it mean to you? Or, hey, the fact that you talk about mentality or perseverance in this way, that's a person that I want to know, or that I want to train with, or that I want to whatever. And then cool. Then yes, it can lead into the money-making side, the business side. You train them, like whatever. Yeah. But planting that seed initially just based off of authenticity, based off of, I like this quote, I like the person that said it, or whatever it is, I'm going to share that. And for no other purpose because that's when I think social media can get even more dangerous, is when if you're super caught up in the influencer culture, then you're just like, I just need to post and hopefully people like it. And if they don't, oh my God.
Just like what we just talked about. You have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, it's not what you want to do, but now you have to, because you're so caught up in it. Like, and again, anybody can be on social media and post all they want, and if they want to try to make money, they can. But like, I think that's probably one of the easiest things to get caught up in.
Yeah.
Like, so for money or no money.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, like a handful of years, for a handful of years, I wasn't wanting to be an influencer, but I was so worried about like numbers on social media, where like I was like, oh my gosh, they like when I post pictures of this, but not when I post pictures of this. So I need to post more pictures of this, and these people are getting huge followings because they're doing this. So oh my gosh, I should do that too. And again, it became the like, this isn't just an enjoyable platform to share things on. This is somehow turned into work.
Right.
Work that I'm not even getting
Right.
anything out
Yeah.
of.
And I'm not a social media expert, so like, I'm definitely not going to get what I should be if I'm trying to do that. Like,
Right. But again, like, that's what I like when people use their social in just authentic ways.
Right.
It's like, if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm not expecting more. It's to go back to something else we talked about. It's the idea of what chasing your goal is.
Yeah.
Is it a straight line straight to the top, or is it a bunch of this, and then it's just like, okay, cool, I'm cool with whatever happens in that. Like, so to kind of take it back, like, do you feel like that time frame is, and I'm not saying you never learned a lesson before that, but was that kind of setback with the injury where you kind of got to refocus on why you wanted to bull ride in the first place and all that sort of stuff? Like, do you feel like that was like a big lesson for all of what we just talked about for you, of like maybe putting things in perspective?
Yeah. So like I said, there was one really long period, and like I said, it ended with me tearing my labrum. And yeah, that was like a godsend as far as my writing, like, because I just missed it. Like, and then bull riding, the I've been blessed to be in some great. We said the word community a lot when we did our video for the gym, right? Bull riding community is a lot like we tried to show you what our gym is, right? We're all there for each other. We're all competing against each other, trying to take everybody's money. We're also always there for each other. So like, it wasn't necessarily the physical act of riding all the time. Like, it just took me away from everything that I love. It took me away from, my rodeo friends, traveling the country. Like, I've been all over the country. I haven't seen anything of it. So, because I went to a rodeo and I hop in my car and go to the next rodeo or come home. So, like, it's not like we hung out in town. So, unless we went to Nashville. Sometimes we'd hang out in Nashville. Yeah, we, so, like, it made me realize what I truly liked about it. Yeah, I loved getting on the bulls. I loved riding the bulls. But there's a whole lot more to it than just getting on the bull. So like, there's people that share something you're interested in and would carry you out of an arena if your arm is falling off, right? Like, I mean, to me, it's probably as close to a military family or something like that too. Like, we're just there for each other. So
I was going to ask you this earlier and completely blanked on it, but how important do you think, again, I'm kind of asking the same thing I just asked you, I guess, but like, how important do you think that refocus time is for really anybody, right? You just gave me your perspective of like, hey, it showed me that I really missed the community. It showed me, what I actually missed about it. But kind of how we were talking about with like getting caught up in your own system, your own machine, and not ever take. It's like the cliche, like stop and smell the roses
right.
thing, which is so easy to just never do.
Yeah.
Ever do. Like, do you feel like trying to remind yourself, and I'm saying like anybody who's listening, like trying to remind yourself that even if there's not something forcing you to stop, every once in a while, you need to just like take a break.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of just life in general. Like, I think most of the people take things way too, like, everything is super important to them. Like, they're stuck in their bubble. Like, so like, take a look around you and see what's going on. Like, why are you there? But yeah, as far as work, like, if you feel like you're lost in it, like, are you truly lost? What do you need to do to find yourself? Do you need to take a break? Do you need to quit altogether? Maybe it's, maybe it's not you, maybe it's whatever you're doing. Like, maybe that's truly not where you are. So like, that's one of those things it's one of the curves in the line towards your goal. Like, you thought you reached your goal, but like, if your goal's not making you happy, then why is it your goal? Like, I mean, I can't say I'd ever want to shoot towards a goal that's going to not make me happy. So I think always reassessing like what you're doing is probably a really good thing for somebody.
Yeah. I feel like the last like year for me has been a slow progression towards uncovering everything that we just talked about. Where it's not that I'm like, oh, I don't like anything that I do, but like, I feel like now more than ever, and maybe this is just growing up, I don't know, but now more than ever, I feel like I'm so close to so many goals that I want, but at the same time, I feel so out of place. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and like leaning into everything that we're talking about, where it's like, okay, I'm seeing all these things within reach, and bits and pieces of all of it make me happy, right? And if I achieve certain things, if I make a feature-length film, and I'm happy. And then if that feature length film or the next one gets on Netflix, you know what I mean? Like there's those goals in that progression, right? Or make X amount of money off of freelance work. Like cool, you hit those goals. Like there's always those goals and always those growth points. But I feel like the last year, as just outside of like life and career, I feel like I've been looking, or not outside of life and career, like outside of work and career, I've been looking at my life through that different lens of what we're talking about, where I'm like if something for me, I feel like I recently realized was like, I almost didn't have any hobbies because I turned all my hobbies
into work.
Right. Because I loved them so much. And again, that's not me saying, oh my gosh, my hobbies turned into my work. Like I'm stoked about that. But I forgot to kind of like get new hobbies in their place.
Yeah. So that, like the gym, right? So like I love going to the gym. I love working out. I love training my people that I train, right? But sometimes it gets like tedious, right? I don't always want to be there. When we shut down for COVID, I was down for 11 weeks. I could not wait to get back to the gym and not because I needed to work out or like, but like I remembered like, this was therapy for me. Like I was losing my mind at home. Like my wife, like I guarantee she thought I was insane for the last 5 weeks of that. So like, but yeah, and then like, as we said, like reassessing, like I reassessed how I was working out even, like, did I need to work out like I was? Like, and at that point I was 39. Like I probably didn't need to be like trying to lift 500 pounds off the ground or anything. Like, so in that 11 weeks, cause I was forced to stay out of the gym, I reassessed how I was training my clients, the purpose, like my own purpose at the gym. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's forced, but like both times that we've talked about have been forced, but like it's definitely helpful.
Well, I think the cool thing about both of those times is that you notice that it was an opportunity to refocus or reassess, right? And I feel like that's almost what I've been seeing for me in like the last year is like, yes, obviously everything was shut down for a minute, so there was no like I couldn't physically go do a video production or something like that, right? So it was a break, and it was like, okay, this is me first like stepping outside of the machine that I've created for myself. Oh, when none of this is around, okay, it's like, and I have 100 things to do at all points in time, but I'm like, okay, when this main thing isn't around, okay, what am I doing? Okay, and like you were saying, reassess like even how you'll do it when you get back to it.
Right.
The weird thing that happened is that when things opened back up and we were, allowed to group back up and do stuff again, we had one video production that kicked off what was going to be like weeks worth of bookings that we had, which super lucky to have that, right? But the first one went terribly wrong. So then it created this domino effect, one after another. And literally at the end of that, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh.
So for me, it was like I reassessed what I liked and didn't like, then got back into it and was ready to go and was excited. And then it's like it was almost like it needed to prove a bigger point to me, where it was like, all right, cool, you learned a little bit of this, but now you really need to refocus, and this is what we're going to do to make you refocus. Because at the end of it, it totally unlocked this whole new perspective of why did these things go bad? How can I prevent them from going bad in the future? And what does going bad mean to me? You know what I mean? Because bad for me and might not, somebody else could have been like other team members of ours on the productions, later in time when I was like, dude, that production was like terrible. They were like, really?
Right.
And obviously everybody has different responsibilities on their shoulders. So some people don't know. So bad to me isn't bad to somebody else. But for me, it completely drained me. And I was like, it was the reassessment. Why do I like doing this? Am I caught up in my own machine? And how do I restructure and re-strategize that? And for me, that big step was realizing that I was only... What began as me chasing my goal of creating for a job and working for myself over a couple of years had turned into I was only using my creative energy for other people, but painting it as if it was for me. Because I get to be self-employed.
Right.
That's a big thing for me. I'm still getting to create. Well, that's another thing for me. But what I wasn't realizing was there's so much stuff that I wanted to do for me, and you can't always get what you want out of a client project.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to do what they want to do. You got to make it how they want, whatever, anything. Doesn't have to be a creative job. Anything.
Yeah.
You could be training somebody who, maybe if you like training and you love connecting with people and you love conversing with them and getting to know them and all that sort of stuff while they work out. Maybe you have somebody who does not want to speak a word.
I've had it.
And then maybe after time you're like, I love training this person, but it's kind of taking more out of me than it is giving to me.
Yeah.
So and that was my identifier. As I was
and I've had that. Like, it's just like, okay, we're going to show up for this hour and we're going to get through the hour. We're going to go through all the exercises, right? Do everything we need to do to, get them what they need. But that's it. Like, there's no connection. There's no anything. Like, it's hard to work with people and not have a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I just, it's difficult. It can be done. But it's definitely not the way I like to work.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the same, like, that's why I'm not like, I'm a huge fan of Fit 1-4. It's because, like, yes, we were there doing interviews for a video, but through those questions and the way that we like to ask questions and the stories that we want to make for people, it's not just like, how cool is your gym? Great, we'll put that in the commercial. How cool are you? Great, we'll put that in the commercial. It's, why do you do this?
Right.
What's your story? Why did you want to do this? Like, and obviously I've done a podcast with him since, but when we did T's interview, I was crying.
Yeah.
As he was telling his story.
Wow.
Just in his interview.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, wow, like, I'm getting to connect with these people, and this and that then becomes a fun job to do.
Right. Yeah.
When you can connect with somebody.
You can just talk to somebody and they get that, like, response. Like, yeah, why wouldn't you want that? So,
right.
Like, that's, I guess in most of my, like, favorite things I've done in life, like, it's the connections with the people that I've done lots of things in my life, right? So, like, the best things for me were the ones where I had, like, a real connection, or they, even for me, not me to them, but, like, I got, like, a thought-provoking thing from someone. Like, I mean, I was a prison guard for 4 years, right? So, like, that can be pretty intense, but I learned a lot about myself in my own life, being a prison guard and talking to inmates, right? Like, they've had some experience too, like, and I used some things I learned from some inmates in prison to help myself out. So, like, and I would go back to that work anytime if I needed a job. So
yeah, when I think that's the importance of almost anything, and obviously not everybody in the world is going to look at things this way, but I feel like that's the importance of anything, is communication and connection with people. It is realizing that everybody has a story.
Right.
Everybody has an importance to their story. Just because they're not a celebrity or something doesn't mean that they don't have something crazy or awesome that they've lived through or experiences to share with you. That, because I feel like there's unfortunately probably prison guards who are just like, I can't believe they're in here, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, when you're looking at it from the perspective of, is another human, and yes, I need to do my job. I gotta,
Well, that was me when I first started.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah, I was an ass, like, and it took a conversation with an inmate one day, basically saying, I was discussing visitation. The inmates having people come visit them with another inmate. And I'm like, if I ever did anything stupid enough to get myself in here, I wouldn't want people to visit me. And this dude, he'd been in for a while, and he's like, dude, you can't say that. I'm like, why? That's just like, he's like, you don't know these people's stories. And it's funny because So that happened. Prison, you have weird days off, just like cops. So like I had Wednesday and Thursday off. So this conversation happened on Tuesday, right before I was getting ready to leave. And he's like, "You don't know these people's stories," and that's what he said to me. And I don't know why, but that one conversation stuck with me my whole weekend, right? My whole 2 days off. And I remember sitting in my apartment and literally thinking about this conversation. And then I started thinking about people that were in my dorm, right? Like at the time I was drinking a lot. So I'd say damn near not alcoholic at one time. So there was this guy in my dorm who was doing 10 years for vehicular homicide, which is horrible. He was drunk, driving, killed a man driving, who was also driving. He was doing 10 years. He had kids at home. The man he killed was also drunk. And so, I look at that, and I'm saying, well, if it was the other guy, I would know him. An accident happened. Two people made decisions to get on the road drunk. And I might know the other guy. I might not know this inmate. I might know the other guy. And I've also drove drunk a few times in my life. So I could easily be this guy or the other guy. I'm like, so there's a story that I didn't think about that, yeah, I mean, on a mistake of my part would put me in prison, but do I really want my kids not to see me at all? Thought about that for a while, then think about the next inmate, right? There's a horrible inmate, couldn't stand him. I hated him, he hated me, we just didn't get along. But he was in prison for killing a man that raped his 3-year-old daughter. Well, at this point now in my life, I have a stepdaughter, I have 2 other daughters, and I have a son. I have 4 kids, right? Somebody touched them, I would gladly go to prison. So I think about that. Yeah, and I mean, I'd be a little upset if people didn't visit me in prison because I killed a man who raped one of my kids, right? So after that Friday when I went back to work, I probably was the nicest I've ever been, and kind of just changed, started working with a lot of the programs in the prison, just trying to help the kids out, because unfortunately it's there's definitely some people in there that need a lot of help education wise and just mentorship wise. They just don't know any better, right? It's just the way they grew up. And it's because I had that one conversation, and it's probably helped me in a lot of aspects of my life, just learning the stories of the people that I deal with.
Yeah. Man, I love that you shared that.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, you're exactly right. How much did that one conversation create a domino effect for so many other situations?
Yeah. So, and then when I quit the prison, so that conversation probably happened less than a year of being there, right? So I was there for 4 years. But my last day, I had lots of inmates come up and shake my hand, and I had one inmate in there who I had actually coached when he was in high school. He was a football player of mine. I didn't even know he was in my prison, right? He was waiting on me outside the door when I walked out of my gym. And I walked out and saw him, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing here, right? I'm like, when did you get here? And, he's like, I've been here for a while. I'm like, he's like, I heard you were working here, so I did everything I could to avoid you. Because I coached him in football. We had serious conversations. He struggled with some issues in football. So I was always trying to talk to him and guide him in the right direction in football. And, he remembered that from football, so he was embarrassed to have me see him, right? But he wanted to make sure that I saw him, and that I, at some point, had something to do with him, that he hadn't forgotten about what I tried to do for him. So yeah, like it changed me as a prison guard, that conversation, and probably allowed me to help other people while I was working there.
I think, doesn't that, it kind of just goes back to the cliche saying of like treat other people how you would like to be treated.
Yeah.
It's see yourself.
Right. It's the simplest thing. Like with the world we live in right now, like just be kind. Like, so like, I don't know your story. Like, so, if we're at the grocery store, like, you're acting like a fool at the grocery store. Yeah. I mean, it might be kind of crazy, but who knows what that person has going on in their life. Like, so like, they might run into you with a cart, but be kind. Like, so they're also trying to get home to their dying husband or something. Like,
yeah. Well, I think of that like when I experience traffic all the time. Traffic's annoying. Nobody likes it.
Right.
But I'm also like, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Like we'll get there. Like, it's like, I don't know. Okay, this person kind of cut me off. Like,
Right.
hey, maybe danger. Sure, be angry at somebody for maybe creating some danger.
Right.
Could have caused a car crash. That's not fun. But then don't carry that with you the rest of the day.
Have you ever heard of? I'll think of it. Go ahead. David Foster Wallace, I think is his name. Ever heard of him?
Maybe.
He's like a professor. Anyways, he did a commencement speech at Kenyon College in Mount Vernon or Gambier or wherever it is, right? He did this thing. It's called "This Is Water," right? Like, and he talks about all that stuff. Like in it, he says there's these two fish swimming along. As they're swimming along, they pass this older fish, and the older fish nods and says, "Hey boys, how's the water?" And they just keep going on their way. And the two younger fish are like, "What the hell is water?" Like, because it's just what they live in, right? But like, he's just like, "How are things doing?" Right? But it's thought provoking. So like, where people don't think about what's going on around them, they're only worried about themselves so much. Like, I mean, you have to worry about yourself, but like, we're all here together. Like, we should probably try to be, work together a little better. So like, you don't know what's going on around you. You don't know what that person's dealing with in traffic, right? Like, that person that's about to cause the car accident might also be trying to get home to his dying wife or something. Like, and like, you might be having a bad day, but that person could possibly be having a worse day. You don't know. And it's probably not that, but like, it would be, I don't know, that you should listen to that commencement speech.
Yeah, well,
Like,
it sounds
I don't remember
cool.
when it was from, but
Well, if you ever find it, toss me a link.
it's on YouTube. I've listened to it probably 100 times.
Okay,
Like,
no,
it's
it
just
sounds
like,
interesting.
I mean, I'm the furthest from like some liberal arts guy, but like, that's all. It's a liberal arts school. He's, and he basically tells you like, how a liberal art, student thinks, right? And why they shouldn't. Mm-hmm. So like, but like, again, I'm the furthest thing from that, but like, yeah, I've had some moments in my life where I'm just like, what are you people doing? Like, you're really messing up my day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also their day.
Right. Yeah. And why, I know it's easier said than done, but like, why add to that bad
Right.
day for yourself or that other person?
Right.
And it took me a long time to determine that, of understanding like, okay, this thing could annoy me, make me mad, but like, I need to get better at controlling, like, am I going to carry that with me the entire rest of the day or the rest of the week or and don't get me wrong, like, I'm not going to imagination land it, like annoying things or bad things can be very annoying and very bad.
Right.
They're not easy just to shake off and be like, it's okay. Like
Right.
that I think is a huge problem with like the culture around like positivity.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy for toxic positivity to become a thing. And where it's like, I think when people hear like mental health or mindset or positive thinking, and I've talked about this so much, people who listen to the show are probably sick of it, but I think a lot of people hear those things and a lot of people immediately turn towards the toxic positivity part, where they think that when you say that or you think that, you're pretending that nothing is wrong.
Right.
Where it's no, it's identifying that thing is wrong, that thing sucks, that thing makes me sad, angry, whatever. But my reaction to it is going to determine how much worse it could be. Right. And that to me is what, a positive mindset is identifying like, I'm not going to pretend like just because I think positively doesn't mean that, I'm going to pretend like, no, you think that's bad. That's not that bad. Be happy.
Right.
That's not what it is.
Right.
No. It's identifying, it's owning that like, wow, this thing that happened to me, that really, really sucks. And I'm gonna let myself feel the way I need to feel. If I'm angry, if I'm sad, if I'm whatever, I'm gonna feel that. But
what's the next step?
I'm gonna control my next step.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna control what I do with what happened.
Right.
And that to me, I feel like is one of the most valuable things that I learned in the last few years. When I feel like in the last couple of years, I've made my most growth as a person. Mm-hmm. And one of the most valuable things I learned was just the saying that what happens doesn't matter, your reaction to it does. Mm-hmm. And ever since I heard that, that has always just been like, just trapped in my mind. Yeah. So whenever something happens, it immediately plays. Right. It just pops up in my mind. It's like, what's your reaction to this? Yeah. Feel what you need to feel. Be angry, be upset, be sad, be whatever, for sure. That's not what positive thinking is. No. Positive thinking is not pretending it's not bad. It's owning that it is, and then determining what your next steps are.
Right. Like, I mean, why do we have to sit in it? Like, if we can sit in it forever, but that doesn't change it. Like, so what are you going to do? Like, we can have all the emotions, whatever it is, but like, you have to move from it. Like, if it's a bad experience, what are you going to do to make it not a bad experience? Mm-hmm. So, like, I think that's very important, like, to take a step back, like we said earlier, like, step back, assess it a little bit, and figure out what the next step is. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but you still need, like, you can't just live in this happy little world all the time, like, oh, everything's great. Like, so, no, that's great. No, I don't care if my house caught fire, like, whatever, everything's amazing. That's not the case either. Like, so, you have to move forward from everything you're doing. So how do you do it? But you got to figure it out yourself. Like, and you don't have to figure it out yourself. You have to ask the question yourself. So, like, there's lots of ways to, with this world we live in, we can figure out help if it's, something that needs help or not. But if you don't ask the question, you're not going to know anyways.
Mm-hmm. And that's, again, something I've even identified with myself is like, I don't outwardly get angry easily, but things annoy me really easily. If I see something stupid or somebody does something dumb or, whatever, I will inside, I'll be like, immediately like, that's so, no, why would you ask me that? Or why would you do that? Or why are you acting that way or whatever? But the way I let that energy continue to grow, like, that's when I'm like, oh no, I'm actually a pretty chill person. Like, I don't let that grow and fester and get larger. It's like, I've learned to kind of like step back and assess the situation. Like, okay. And again, easier said than done. There are things that have happened that I'm immediately just like angry at. And I'm like, I cannot understand why somebody would do this or say this or what, like, that infuriates me. That also comes from being way too like emotional of a person. Like, I'm too overly empathetic with a lot of people. So if something bad happens to somebody, I'm like, I feel it as it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, wow, like I don't know what they're going through, but what they're going through makes me feel so much like this. And now that's terrible. And then that's cycling back around into, I'm so angry that they have to feel that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't let, at least I try to not let those thoughts and feelings turn into outwardly facing thoughts and feelings of like, okay, I'm going to get in a fight with this person who cut me off in traffic or stared at me the wrong way in the grocery store. And it's like, no. That's when those things are not that big a deal. And it's not like, what is that really going to do to my day? Like another thing that I heard at one point was like, you know, if something's annoying right now, you know, you're trying to figure out the solution for it. Like, think about like whatever happened, how much does it matter a month from now?
Right.
And if it is going to matter a month from now, like if it's a big problem, okay, then let's kind of reverse engineer that. Like, how does it matter less a month from now? How can you make yourself feel better? How can you make future you feel better? How can you start to fix this or solve it now? Communicate with the person you need to communicate with. Work on that thing you need to work on. So then future you doesn't feel what current you is feeling right now. And that doesn't mean erasing what happened. That doesn't mean saying it didn't happen. It's none of that. But it's just taking those emotions and thoughts that are inside and not letting them grow and spread outside of you of, I'm angry today, so you're going to have a bad day too because I'm angry.
Like, you can't just ignore it. Like, it's there. Mm-hmm. So, like, you might as well, it's going to, like, whatever. I mean, obviously some things just go away. But, like, acknowledge it and then, you know, again, try to change it if you need to. Like, and look forward. Is it going to affect you a month from now? If it's not, then, you know, put it on the back burner and move on to the next thing. So if it's going to affect you in a month, then, like, figure it out. But, like, don't just sit in it. Like, so that helps no one. So, like, if you're just mad at somebody, like, it doesn't help anybody just sit and be mad. Like, if you're having some problems at work or school or whatever, like, what do you need to do? So, and then who do you need to get help from? Like, but, like, for the most part, like, we control everything we do. If we accept it. Like,
And dude, I have, like, again, another thing I identified over the years is like, I'm bad about holding things in sometimes, like holding grudges, right? So if somebody does something wrong, I like let it fester in my mind. But what I've also learned over the years is like, I've identified that. I've identified how much of a problem that is for me, right? And it's like, there are times where, like, if there's something wrong that needs talked about, it eats away at my brain until I talk about it. And then once I talk to that person about it or bring it up or clear the air, it literally, like the cliche saying goes, it's like a weight lifted off my chest.
Right.
Because I'm not playing through the scenario in my head all the time. And then maybe even making something worse than what it actually is.
Yeah.
When it's just communicate about it. And they might not see your point. They might be like, you're an idiot. Get out of here. You still got the majority, if not all, of your thoughts and feelings out.
Right.
So then you're not just carrying that around.
Right.
You attempted a solution. You know what I mean? And if the solution didn't work, that's okay.
And then maybe, like, you realize, okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's just the way he is or whatever. Like, okay, so he just confirmed that he is an ass.
Then you have your answer.
So, like, but at least it's closure one way or the other.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. That's a big thing I've learned over the years is like, I get eaten alive when I don't get that closure.
Right.
Whether it's for something big, something small, something in between. Like, they're not always fun to have, but I feel like I've become pretty good at communicating through awkward conversations with people.
Right.
Like, if it, you know what I mean? If it needs to happen, it's like, listen, we got to talk about this. This is it. Here's my perspective. Where's your perspective?
Right.
Where are we at with it? Like, because again, you're going to get a solution one way or the other.
Right.
Either you're going to work it out and be like, wow, it's fixed now. We're okay now.
Right.
Or they're going to prove to you like, oh, they're not about it. Okay, now my answer is close it off, end it. Yeah. No more communication with that person or whatever. It's just not a good fit right now.
Right.
You know, and then that's just it. Do you think that, or would you say, not do you think, you experienced it, would you say that, like, your time as a prison guard, like, do you think that was like the biggest almost lesson in human to human connection maybe that you had? And I know you said like the community of bull riding was huge for you, but maybe through a different lens, experiencing like from something that really is a bunch of negative situations, understanding different people's lives and perspectives. Like, do you think that was like a big turning point for you?
100%. So, when I was naive to a lot of things. When did I start there? So at 30 years old, when I started being a prison guard, I was naive to the way of the world, right? Like, there's a lot of people struggling with a lot of things, and they're just like, it's not because they choose to. It's just a matter of circumstance, right? Their school system sucks. Their childhood sucks, right? Like, their dad, he was killed selling drugs. He doesn't grow up with both parents. Like, there were the adult males that couldn't write their own name, right? So, like, not that I was the best student or the smartest person around, but like, I didn't have to deal with that. Like, I've dealt with some bad situations growing up, that I struggled with in school, but like, to try to make it to adulthood without being able to write my name, like, I don't know what I would do with my life. So you just gotta, like, maybe they are doing the best they can. Unfortunately, the best they can just isn't, the right track. Like, but so, and that's some people. It's not all people. Some people are just assholes, and so they do stupid crap. They do stupid crap on purpose, and this is where they go. But there, like, you definitely learn, right? Like, just anywhere, you'll know the ones that really want the help. They're trying to do better for themselves. And you'll know the ones that just don't care, like, same. So you just don't deal with the people who don't care, and try to help the ones that do.
I have a random, it's not really random, it deals with exactly what we're talking about. I have like sort of a big question for you. It's something I think about probably too much, because I have a lot of these conversations where we talk about people's choices, their destiny, their life trajectory, whatever it is. Like, so it's like a deep dive question. But do you feel like everyone, like every single person, has it in them to do good, to accomplish their goals, to accomplish their dreams? But sometimes, and I'm not asking strictly inmates at the prison, like, I'm talking like everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think everybody does have it in them to do literally anything they want, but sometimes what they don't have in them is the ability to unlock that? Does that make sense as a question?
Yes. And it's funny because I make the joke all the time. Like, people are like, oh, you can be anything you want when you grow up. And no, you can't. I wanted to be an astronaut when I grew up, right? I'm too tall. They won't let me, right? So, I'll never go into space, right? So I'm just too tall. Couldn't do it. But do I think I could have worked and did everything to do that if I wanted? Yeah. Like, do I know what it took? No, but like, I think anybody can put in the work to reach anything they want to do. There may be some circumstances that are literally out of your control, even putting in the work, that may not allow it. And sometimes it takes till you're 30 or 40 or 50 maybe to realize what that is and how to reach for it. But like I said earlier, we are in control of most everything in our life. So, like, some people are dealt a bad hand, but they can still fight through it. You know, I mean, you look at some of the sports stars, you know, like some of them didn't come from the greatest backgrounds, greatest lives, but you know, they work hard and get where they want to be, and it happens in every field, career field there is. So like, but I mean, you have to be willing to do it. Like, you can't just expect it to happen. I mean, you can do anything you want that you're willing to work for.
Yeah. That's even why I asked that, because I feel like I ponder that too often, because I'm a person who gets very excited for the possibilities for anyone. Mm-hmm. You know, if you told me right now that you had the idea of maybe opening your own pizza shop one day, I'm going to want to hit you up in a year and be like, hey man, you still just let you know, like, that pizza shop idea is pretty cool. If you ever need any help with, you know, branding or something for it, let me know.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get excited for people's potential.
Right.
And sometimes I think that's a detriment, because that turns into me holding a grudge almost against somebody for something they don't even know. You know, when I see the potential in somebody and I'm like, oh man, like, you could totally do it. You know, it's like I can almost see it inside you of like, man, you can do it. And then when they don't, like I asked the question, they don't unlock that ability or discipline to do it. They don't put that work in. I'm not saying I could, but it's like I wanted it for them,
right?
You know, which is totally an unfair like trade of emotions.
So,
but
like for me, like I love when people have something in mind that they really are truly passionate about and want to reach. I may not always agree with it, right? But I will absolutely agree with anybody on going for what you truly want to do. Now, there might be a few things like, I truly want to go kill this person. Yeah, I can't get on board with that.
Yeah,
right.
We'll
but
cross
like,
it off the list.
So like, you know, I have certain values. Other people have other values, and if it's something they truly believe in, I will definitely back them in seeking that out. Like, as long as it doesn't involve super craziness, right? Like, but like, if they're willing to work for it and it's what they truly believe in, then yeah, I want that person to succeed. And I, you know, if there's any way that I can help them, gladly help them do it. So like, that's what I want for my kids, right? I have, you know, I have 2 teenage daughters. Like, you know, they're in this time of their life when, you know, things are, especially the world we live in now, they're, you know, it's a crazy world. So they form opinions, and like, they might not be on the same opinion that I have about things, but if it's what they truly believe in, then by all means do what you feel is right. Like, so I don't have to support what you feel is right, but I will support your work towards it. So,
So at what point in time, you know, after you kind of have this maybe perspective change in your life, like at what point in time do you start kind of using all of these thoughts, everything that you've just shared with me? When do you start using that to, I mean, directly give back to people and start training them and help people change their lives?
So as far as helping people, like even in high school, like I've always had like this want to just help, right? Like I said, I dealt with some things growing up. Like, I'm dyslexic. School was rough. Like, I hated it. But like I said, I used sports, right? I was picked on. I was bullied. I couldn't read. Like, I was small. So, but like, I always tried to remember the people that did help me. And then I always tried to, you know, return it, right? Like, so like, you know, I worked at some camps for kids in high school, you know, with some autism type camps and special needs camps. You know, I've coached in one form or another most of my adult life, right? Football, basketball, helped teach kids how to ride bulls. You know, I've reffed youth league basketball at churches that have them, things like that. But as far as like actual like personal training, I started that in 2012, I think. 2012, yeah. So 2012, and like it started out because of me riding bulls. I was trying to help some kids learn how to ride bulls, and I said, "Hey, why don't you just come to the gym with me? We'll work out too." So that's how that started, and then turned that into training. And I'd say like probably in the beginning of training, I probably wasn't too worried about the connection so much as just like, let's work out. Let's do the best we can, push as much weight as we can. I would say probably when I got down to Columbus from Marion that things changed a little bit. So, I mean, I was always trying to help people, I guess, but so 2016, probably like about 4 years after that conversation at the prison, where I really like, one really great thing about Fit 14 in Columbus is the diversity. So like stuff that I'm not used to, right? Being from rural central Ohio, right? Like it's like, mostly white school, right? So not huge diverse. I absolutely love getting my clients that are here from India or here from China, like, and just listening or asking questions, like same thing we're doing here. So what about this? You know, like it's I'm seeing the world without having to travel, right? Like so, but then in turn, I can help them, you know, create better health, you know, a better understanding of what we do here, you know, if it's things that they struggle with, like so I would say probably, I mean, when I got down here, 2016 was probably the turning point for me, really, just being here for to help people do better.
And at what point in time during that did bull riding stop? And like did you retire? Is it still a thing you sometimes do? Like, is there?
No.
I guess how does that work?
I guess 2015 probably was about the last year that I did it somewhat consistently. It was slowly, so from 2012 when I started working out till 2015, I was slowly backing off. What got me into the gym is I had a knee injury from playing basketball. Couldn't play basketball anymore. Had to do something, so I got into the gym. Didn't really stop me from riding bulls, the knee injury. So I was still doing that a little bit. But as I got into the gym and started seeing things I'd never seen before on changes of my body, I started enjoying that a lot more. So then a rodeo would come up, and we had them every weekend. Like, so I can't say they just came up, right? But one that I wanted to go to would come up, and I'd be like, well, do I want to ride? Because if I ride, I may be out of the gym for a week, you know? Okay, I'll go ride. And I might be fine and be able to go to the gym, you know? But then the next time I might injure myself and I'll be out of the gym for a week. And so, like, the gym actually kind of pushed me away because I didn't want to miss the gym anymore. So, like, I mean, I've been doing it for a long time. It hurt, right? Like, every time I got on a bull, it hurt. It wasn't like I was when I was 18. So, like, there were times, even if it was a really good ride, I'd jump off and run away and nothing happens and I'm out of the gym for a week because it's, you know, it's like being in a car crash. Like, it's pretty violent on your body. So probably 2012 to 2015, kind of like got off the bull riding a little bit and more into the gym. And then in 2016 is when I moved to Columbus. And 2016 October is when I started working at Fit 14. And totally different atmosphere than I was used to as far as a gym. And like, I went to Ryan and be like, hey, I used to train in Marion. Here you're looking for trainers, basically. He's like, yeah. And, we started going over pricing and, silly things like that. And I was like, oh, I don't know that I can do this. Like it was pretty intimidating to me to be down here. Like, because the gym that I worked at in Marion, I literally knew everybody. Like, so like I didn't have one single client down here. So like, Ryan helped me get my first client by introducing me to a member and things like that. So, but like I used it, it wasn't like my only career, but it was like, it's what I wanted to do. And so, I try to use it for, as good as I can for people, right? Like, health and fitness is very important to me. But like, it's not the only thing to me. So
in general, it sounds like it was a very like natural transition.
Yeah.
Though it wasn't like there was a day where you were like, I took my last ride. Oh my God, I can't believe.
I wanted that, like, because I wanted that. Like, I don't know why. It just never worked out. Like, things just didn't work out like that. Oh, this is going to be my last time. Like, I wanted the big like goodbye party. Well, then I'm like, so I'm like the little fish in the water. Like, what's water? Like, nobody cared. So like, although I wanted it and had been around forever. I remember going to rodeos in 2015 and seeing 18-year-olds there, and they'd be like, how old are you? I'm like, and they'd be like, oh, geez, like grandpa here, like, and I was 34 or whatever at the time, but been doing it a long time at that point.
Right.
And so I wanted it, but I definitely thought I was more important than what I was.
Well, you probably wanted the classic like Cowboys Last Stand sort of ride off into the sunset moment, like.
So, what is a George Strait song? I can't remember the name of it right now. Cowboy Rides Away, right? Like, that's the name of it. So, I wanted that, but nobody else cared. So,
it's at least though, like at least you had the natural balance kind of shift to where it wasn't like. Because I think it could feel like a different story if you really wanted that last stand, you didn't get it, but you didn't have the next thing to actually kind of carry your passion into. Then you could be sitting
overlapped a little bit. So that definitely helped.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So like, if it didn't hurt, right, I would jump on a bull today because I do love it. Like, but I don't think my wife would dress me for a week. Like, she's not gonna, so.
Is there ever anything that you, and maybe you actively go, I don't know if you actively go back and teach people bull riding, like is there ever anything you do that you see kind of keeping your foot in the bull riding community of like, hey, I do go and actually I coach people, or I want to, or I'd love to do this in the community, or is it just sort of like such a casual sort of?
Yeah, so there's been a couple times, people have reached out about, like getting into shape for riding, right? I still go to rodeos once in a while. There's still guys that I like to watch. Like one of the kids that I trained when he was young, like a couple years ago in our association that we were a member, and like he won it. So like I was, paying attention to what he was doing and talking to him all the time. Like it'll always be there. Like there's always going to be rodeos, right? Like. I say that, like, I hope there's always rodeos, so I can always go. Like a dream of mine would be to, like, have land, go back to the ranch, but have rodeo bulls, right? Like, some bucking bulls and take to rodeos. So, be on the other side of it.
Right.
So, like, because I absolutely love the atmosphere. I love what it is, the camaraderie of it and everything. So, like, but, if I don't ever get it, I'll be all right.
Right, yeah. Right. What do you feel like was, as you transitioned into figuring out like, okay, I'm going to be an actual trainer. And you said, hey, it was like kind of intimidating coming to Columbus, like whole new gym, whole new atmosphere. And now, like, I mean, I guess when was the decision, and was it intimidating when you were like, I'm going to go start being a trainer all the time now? Like,
It's still intimidating.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, especially like, I mean, for me, I'm an independent trainer, right? So like, make my own hours, make my own pricing, things like that, right? Like, but I also have to find my clients, right? So like, when it's me and my wife and the 4 kids, like we need to maintain something, right? So like, so it's still intimidating. I got to make sure that I'm like hustling to make sure that, everything's good. Like, thank God my wife has a great job, so she can, we're not like struggling if, a couple clients quit on me or whatever. Yeah, it's still intimidating. I mean, but like, I've quit lots of jobs because I didn't like them, right? So like, I'm not going to continue in a life that I just makes me miserable. Like, so, quitting a job to go do personal training, I was doing personal training while I was working there. So quitting there, that wasn't a problem for me because I was miserable anyways. So like, that wasn't the first job I quit because I was miserable. Like, I ended up at the prison because I was miserable at another job. Right. So like, I mean, I have fought many times for things that are really bad in my life. And I've learned that like, maybe I fought for them because it's just the thing I should be doing, right? I'm in this, I'm going to fight for it. But I've learned that like, I'm not going to fight for things that don't make me happy. Like, there's no sense in it. So there's no sense in purposely staying in something or fighting to make yourself happy if it's not there. So right back to where we were. Maybe the goal changes a little bit. So you have to change. Like, someday personal training might not make me happy anymore. I will not have a problem quitting it. Right now, I absolutely love it. So.
Well, now that you've officially brought us full circle, which I love, I've only realistically got one more question for you, man.
Okay.
Unless there's anything you're like, dude, we have not even talked about this part of my life.
I mean, I can't think of anything, so.
Well, beautiful. I got one final question for you.
Okay.
And you've listened to the podcast before, so you might know what's coming. Unless you really do dislike it and you turned each of them off like halfway through, then
So.
then we'll just say it's totally fine. You can do whatever you want. Last question for you. I ask the same question at the end of every episode to every guest. So right now, I want you to put yourself in that seat. I want you to imagine that everyone, everywhere in the world has been listening to us talk this entire time. They're listening to you right now. You've got a live mic. They've heard us talk about mindset and changing perspectives and how what the ladder to success looks like, and it's a squiggly line, not a straight line. They've heard everything up until now, but now you get to kind of ball everything up into one thought that you want to share with them. Everybody's listening in the world. What is it you think they should hear?
So luckily, I have listened, so I've heard this and actually got to think about what I might want to say, right? So I would say you're not here alone, right? So like, whether it's a problem in your life or a great thing in your life, so be mindful of what's going on around you. So if you're having a great thing in your life, that's awesome. The person next to you might not be. So like, you might not want to be so over the top about your celebration. Be mindful. So, you might be having a really bad day. The next person could be having a worse day. You don't know. Be mindful. So like, just like I said with that inmate, said, you don't know their story. So if you were to go through life thinking that everybody's story is worse than yours, I mean, it sounds bad, but like you'd probably be a kinder, gentler person.
Dude, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was a
Thanks for
blast,
having
man.
me. So-
I'm stoked we got to do this, man. Thanks for sharing everything that you did.
Oh.
I love that I got a glimpse of your story and who you were in that interview for the film, but now we get to sit and dive in, take the deep dive. So, okay, before we say goodbye and wrap everything up officially, I know we talked about how you kind of use your social media, but you don't totally use it. You're,
Right.
kind of in between. But if anybody does want to hit you up, maybe talk about training or talk about bull riding or anything that we've talked about, or hire you to train them, like whatever it is, or they just want to go and look at some of those cool positive quotes we talked about, do you want them to find you on the internet? If so, where can they find you?
So Instagram is probably the easiest, at AQ_personal training. Then, we have the Fit14 website. My biography is on there. So fit14.com, look under coaches. And I guess that would probably be about it. I'm not on too much. So, yeah, because I don't know how to do it.
We got it, man. I love it. Dude, thank you so much, man, for doing this. This was a blast. We made it happen, man. There it is. Podcast has been. All right, big thanks to Adam for being on the show and sharing his story. I'm glad also that we have since bonded over our fandom of pro wrestling. Absolutely love that. If you're an avid listener of the show, you know that an easy way to become my friend is to also enjoy pro wrestling. But all in all, this was a fun chat. So if you dug it, tell somebody, share it on your IG story, toss a comment on the YouTube, toss it a like. I don't know. Make a TikTok out of it and do some weird dance over us talking on the show or something. I don't know. Whatever you do, I thank you sincerely for your support. But wherever you are on the internet, please hop over to iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Toss us a rating and a review. I really do love feedback from you guys. I like to hear what you like, maybe even what you don't like, even though it might sting to see. But you can do that. Leave a rating and review. Subscribe on iTunes while you're there. Follow on Spotify. Reminder, you can also leave a rating, I guess, on Spotify now. You can toss some stars on there. So there's another place that I'm going to ask you to divert your attention to. Since the internet is an ever-growing place of all these platforms where you've got to do like the same thing on every single platform everywhere, and I just need your attention on all of them. But that's another conversation, probably for another podcast. So yes, follow on Spotify, subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube to get these video episodes, whether it's the full-length episodes or any of the 15-minute Fridays. You can find them all on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Ross Theisen. Plenty of places for you to find this podcast around the internet. Of course, you can also follow us around social at WYDH Pod. Probably most importantly, though, please just tell someone about this show. That is what I really ask of you, whether it is via social or in person. Next time a friend asks for a podcast recommendation, I ask you to make sure that they have heard of what you don't hear. But that does it. That's another episode in the books. Thanks for listening. Thanks for looking. And as always, I'll be back next episode with a brand new guest that you may or may not know of as they share their story that you for sure never heard.